Let's go! Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Pace Pals. We have an awesome interview in store for you today. A grand finalist, GothicLogic. Gothic, welcome on the show. How you doing?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. Living the dream. We're just about to sit down and talk some Mario. You can't beat it. Zeus, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm ready. I'm ready for this interview. I think, like I said, we were kind of talking a little bit before the interview. Gothic has been around for a hot minute, coming up on 11 years. Gothic, you said?
Yep, 11 years.
That's crazy. It's a long time. That is a long time.
It's a long time.
We got a lot to go over for sure.
You have more experience and knowledge than Zeus and I do cumulatively.
Combined, literally, like it's crazy.
Combined and then some, because what we have, like, I don't know, we have like almost 8 probably. We're coming up on 8.
I got 3, like just about
I got
3.
Like 3.5. I got 4 in June, so I'll round up.
There you go.
So together we get up to like 7.5. It's not looking good compared to the 11. But before we jump into questions, I wanna give Gothic a proper introduction, go over his incredible resume, and I'm gonna start with not your main categories. We'll build up to that. But in 16 star, no, I'm gonna start with 1 star. You have an 811, 119th place. The rest of your time, the rest of your times except for 16 are in the top 100. 16, you have a 1554 shout out worthy time. 0 star, you're in 91st place with an 816, and we're building up. 44th place in 70 star with a 4829, and then the big one, you're in 19th place, top 20 in 120 star with a 138.57, an incredible time, and potentially more impressive yet, you are a grand finalist in pace. You went through the 3 weekends of qualifiers. You were in the top 7. You will be going to Laurel, Maryland. You're going to be making the trip, right? You're going to be competing in finals?
Yeah, that is the plan, yeah.
I love it. How are you feeling about it? Let's start there. How are you feeling about that?
I mean, it's pretty exciting, but, very, very nervous about it.
Oh, you're going to be fine. I'm confident. I think if anything you've shown, you have everything it takes to perform at this level. Your consistency has been incredible. How do you feel about kind of just overall your big takeaways from your own performance in the first 3 weekends of qualifiers?
I mean, like, for some reason, I was like getting the first run was always just like a solid run every time, like first attempt, second attempt, something like that. I would always just drop like a 140, and I kind of kept that the entire time. I was kind of surprised on the final qualifiers, so I could not get to like any amount of sleep at all, so I was like super sleep deprived, and I just struggled really, but I still managed to get a run somehow.
I mean, you did what you needed to do. The sleep thing is an interesting point. I mean, the time zones are kind of geared towards US. So what time were the qualifiers for you?
It was like 3 or 4 p.m. start.
Okay.
But the issue was that I stayed up for like 24 hours beforehand, like
Oh my goodness.
to try and like wake up at like a decent time. But then I barely slept. And then I was awake for like 8 hours or something before it started. And I was like falling asleep during the qualifiers.
Oh no.
I mean, you had like by the midpoint, you had like a full day awake. And you were like still going. That's crazy. But it worked.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. Like, I slept probably like 10 hours during like 4 days and leading up to the qualifiers and during the qualifiers.
Are you thinking that's
like 10 hours total?
That's the strategy going forward, or is the goal to increase?
No, that was not the strategy going forward. That's a bad idea. I couldn't get to sleep. I don't know.
I feel that.
Gothic is about to be awake for like 3 days straight in Laurel, Maryland, just just going hard.
How's the time change going to impact that? I feel like that's do you know when when you're going to make the trip out? Because I think the event starts Thursdays when 120 star.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be like going earlier than the event because I'm going to be staying with somebody for a couple days.
Oh, right on.
I should have a nice adjustment period.
I love that strategy. I think we mentioned it in one of our other episodes. We talked about with Wes, like the time change and how that would impact it. And I was like, I feel like we got to get Gothic out there early, get some adjustment time. I stole that strategy from the NFL will sometimes play games in London, and one of the teams had back-to-back games there. I think the Jags did, and I think they just stayed over there and were like, "Oh, huge advantage. Are you kidding me? There's no time adjustment." So I feel like that's the move. Get out there early, start that adjustment.
Yeah, it's pretty like it's nice as well, just like to have like a longer time there as well.
Have you been to the U.S. before?
No, first time.
Nice.
Ooh, let's go.
Can't wait to welcome you. Not, I won't be there in person. Zias will welcome you in person.
Exactly. I will be at pace. We will we'll have the proper US introduction. There's gonna be a lot of homies there. Everyone's gonna welcome GothicLogic with open arms, I'm sure. But speaking of in-person events, is this like outside of Mario even, is this your first time competing
It is,
at
yeah.
an in-person event? Right on.
That's awesome.
I'm pretty nervous about that as well, but you know, it is what it is.
I think it's gonna. I think it would be really cool. I mean, I feel like it's going to be a supportive environment. You know, people are going to be. I mean, it's Gothic season. Everyone loves Gothic season. Everyone's hopping on board with that. I have a question for you about that. What are the origins of Gothic season?
I don't even know. Like, I think it was just because I was PBing a lot during like soon after Coppolis. You know, I was dropping like 7 PBs with Coppolis and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it was GTM actually that started the Gothic season thing.
We did our own
But then it
little.
just caught on.
We did our own little deep dive. That's what we saw, but I wasn't sure if like you knew more because we like. I think we looked up the hashtag on Twitter and we saw that GTM was the first one, and it was in like August, September, October of 2023.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Which
Yeah,
makes
I mean,
sense. Well, go ahead.
I just caught on for some reason, but I find it kind of funny. It's kind of nice seeing people spam it.
I mean, I love the whole hashtag and everything behind it. I love the excitement people have about it. But it makes sense. I noted, I was going through your SRC profile. Between August 2023 and now, you lowered your PB from a 141 flat to a 138.57, your current PB, over the course of 8 different PBs. That's insane. I mean, it's I think the craziest part to me is the number of PBs you've had, because that just means you're consistently playing literally at your top level, the best you've ever played, and you're continuing to just push that time further and further down. What happened? What clicked? Like, you've just been crushing it for the last 8 months?
Yeah, it was kind of good timing because during like July and August, I just spent that entire time in practice, like in the practice server, like practicing. So I had the like all of that practice that was like gonna improve my time, and then Coppolis dropped, and that's another like minute. So it was just really nice.
It's been incredible to see. Is that what you normally do? Do you normally hang out in like the practice server on the Discord when you practice?
Yeah, I'm like always in there, though I've not been practicing all that much lately.
You've earned a little rest. I feel like you got a little time off before you get ready to grind for the finals.
Yeah, I need to get back into it though, because I've got some things to prove, you know.
I hear you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, getting that 7 spot and being as good of a player as you are definitely could be higher up in there in that top 7. Much more capable than even what your current PB indicates. So yeah, I definitely understand the something to prove aspect of the mentality, but you know, what's like what kinds of things are you going to be doing to just prepare, get yourself ready to go compete? Is there anything you need to work on? Anything you want to work on? Just taking away from quals.
I think I just want to get back into the segment LTA grind and get times that would be good enough for like 137.
What segments do you think probably need the most for you? Like, do you think you need the most work either in getting that time down or just building that consistency?
I think mostly it's consistency. I mean, I don't really do many strats that like I'm not consistent at. I choose to go more consistent than fast. But I mean, it's just like things like tippy. Like I feel like it's so hard to get a good tippy. I always get like a good like pre-tippy, but then lose like 2 minutes. Not even sometimes because of cobble. It's like just anything. Something random will happen. So I need to work on tippy, I think. And basement is obviously basement. Basement's pretty tough.
I feel like those are the two like objectively most difficult parts of the 120 run.
Yeah.
Zias, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, it's okay. Don't worry. I was gonna say just like 120 is just full of. I always like to think there's like 3 gauntlets in 120 star. It's BOB, SSL, and HMC is like number 1. I would even say like CCM, BBH, and DDD is number 2, and then Tippy is obviously the third one. It's just like it's just something about those 3 sections are just so nerve-wracking, and like there's other just difficult stages in between that. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, Tippy dealing with the nerves, dealing with just like the idea of being on pace that far into a run. Definitely understand it. Definitely understand the need to just grind it out.
On the topic of nerves, you know, we talked about how you've just basically been PBing at will over the last 8 months. Do you even feel nerves anymore? Like you get to Tippy and it's like, well, I know I've done. I mean, your last PB, for example, you get up there and it's like, I've literally done this 7 times before in the last, I don't know how many months, you know, a handful of months. Do you even get nervous anymore? Or is it like, I know I'm going to clutch this out?
I mean, you'd think with how many PBs I've got, like I somehow can handle nerves well, but like when I get nervous, I start shaking. So my thumb is just all over the place. So I don't really understand how I can do that. But yeah, I get super nervous.
What have you found any strategies to kind of cope with the nerves, or like what's the best kind of course of action for you?
I don't know. I just try and focus on what I need to do, I guess. Try
Yeah,
and breathe.
that's what B said. And in our when we talked with him, he said, you know, simply has always said like focus on the star in front of you, basically like what the next star, the next, you know, small piece of movement, and the more you can kind of break it down and focus on that smallest piece in front of you. And I've kind of found this myself, obviously at like a different level, but like it does kind of help with the nerves because, and I said this with Beast too, like what I find is when I get really, really nervous, it's almost like I stop even thinking about the game or what I'm doing or playing the game. It's just like I'm thinking about how nervous I am, and I'm thinking about like, oh man, what if I throw this, or like what if I make this mistake? And it's like you're at that point I'm just not focusing. Like mistakes, you know, they're because of nerves, but it's really because I'm not focused. So I feel like focusing on that thing directly in front of you kind of helps combat that, but it's tough, man. When you get to like shaking and like the hand sweat, oh man, it's so brutal.
Yeah, I think another thing that I tried doing was like, so obviously you're gonna get nervous like when you go upstairs. I've put like probably the most time into upstairs compared to like the rest of the run. So I got like a lot more confident in the upstairs segment, and I honestly don't really get too nervous in like wet travel through SL. It's just when I get to Tippy is when I get nervous. So I think that helps as well. Just getting confident in the rest of that.
So would you say that whole upstairs section, what dry road through SL, would you say it's kind of like it can act as like a pretty good confidence booster for the end of the run? Just like, okay, we had a good segment there, like we're just gonna
Yeah, I
go in
think it definitely
and
sets the
crush it.
tone for the up. Like if you have a good wet dry world, I think it sets the tone for the rest of the upstairs.
What dry road is such a like a silent run killer. Like it's so unassuming of a stage, but there's just so many things that can go wrong in What Dry World.
Yeah,
It's
it's really
insane.
easy to lose 30 seconds there.
And you just don't even know where you lost it either. It's just like where did I like where did this come from? Or your cartridge tilts in What
Oh
Dry
yeah.
World.
Have you had that?
I lost a run. Not even that long ago. It was like last year sometime. To my I was doing my drywall 100 and I just got a cart tilt and I couldn't even move. He just stuck to the ground.
Oh, rip. That's so
So brutal.
devastating.
It was a good clip though. It was a good clip.
So Gothic, you've been around, we said before, you've been around for 11 years. What kind
Yep,
of
11 years in a month's time.
11 years in a month's time, coming up on your anniversary, your Mario anniversary? What brought you into the community? How did you discover speedrunning Mario?
So like back in 2013, Narcissa Wright did like a 120 star run because he'd watched a bunch of Sigalemic doing it and wanted to prove to like everybody that running 120, you can't just watch it. You have to like run the game to know what you're doing. So she wanted to prove that, and I didn't really watch that run. It was mostly because I was looking in the directory at the time, and it was like high up. I was like, oh, what the fuck? Like people that were playing Mario, like. So I just jumped into a really small stream of doing 16 star, and I remember it was somebody with like a 21-minute time 16 star, and I was just like, this is so cool. And I started watching it from there.
Did you start running? Go ahead.
I bought a controller like pretty soon after and played on emulator. So it took me like, I don't know, a couple weeks, like a month or something to actually start playing myself. And I was on emulator for like 9 months or something.
You got to console pretty quickly, I feel like. Not even a year.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I feel like that was kind of long.
Really?
But I think these days people stay on emulator for way longer.
Zeus, how long were you on emulator?
Oh God, I was on MU for
years,
like 2 years, something like that.
Damn.
But yeah, I only switched to console because I ran on PlayStation controllers, and those are notorious for stick drift, and I just had too many controllers start drifting, so I'm like, I can't keep putting up with this. I'm just gonna switch to console because I never hear about drift issues for N64 controllers.
I didn't know that was the reason. That's so funny.
Yeah. I like the PlayStation 5 controller, which is what I was using. It's a $70 controller, and like I can't keep spending the money to replace that every single time.
That's
so
actually crazy.
I'm just gonna make the plunge, just switch. It's been worth it though. It's been worth it.
Do you feel like you're worse than Gothic because you spent 2 years in emulator instead of 9 months?
Do I wish I switched to console sooner? Kind of. Kind of. I'll say that.
But no console elitism here.
No, none. Definitely not.
No. So then Gothic, you got into it. You I assume you started with 16 star. I know you said you started, you watching that more.
Yeah, it was just always I didn't even watch any top runners either. It was just always like smaller streamers, and I found like a small group of people that had just started as well and stayed with them. I don't think I started watching top runners for probably like half a year or something, which is crazy to think back on because how could you not watch the top runners?
Yeah, I feel like we look at the Mario community right now, and the top runners of the game are really the ones kind of like leading the way and getting people into the game. It's kind of interesting that it was at least different for you back then, that looking at like not even the top runners kind of were like, it pushed you into that. Like it was like, oh, this is cool. Like I want to do this. Like usually you watch a top runner do it and you're like, oh my God, my mind's blown. Like I want to do that. Like, it's interesting the dynamic there.
Yeah, it was kind of tough because back then there weren't even that many top runners. So when they were offline, you had to just watch the smaller ones. Like it was Sig, like Punkei. I think Punkei was probably still somewhat like low key at that point when I started. I don't think he like came into it until a bit later than that.
That's crazy. A Mario before Punkei.
It's hard to imagine.
I know he's just been like a staple for so long.
Yeah, I think he was just not streaming or something and practicing, and then he just dropped good times out of nowhere.
I feel like people got so good so fast too. Like Cheese, I feel like picked up the game and not like a very long period of time was just like insane.
Yeah, he was definitely good within like a year.
Yeah,
and he was on VC for quite a while too. And
that's a crazy move. VC, I don't know why. I feel like VC is so random. I mean, I know it's like the least used of the three, which is probably why I feel that way. But I just think VC is like so random.
There's only a few people that ran on VC back then. Like
yeah.
Cheese, one of them. And then the other couple just kind of stopped playing.
Didn't Dark Dog for a while run? He was a 16-star runner. I think they ran on VC. I don't know.
And I mean, this was an era of SM64 before Usamune was even a thing. Like, people were just grinding and grinding and getting good at this game so quickly before that kind of tool even came out. And to me, that's insane. I might be spoiled starting, in the era of Usamune, but like, would you say practice was like more or less comparable to even an era where there wasn't any Usamune? Like nowadays, like,
I mean,
is what's
at
that like?
first it was pretty rough because the only practice you could do on GameShock was you press D-pad down to die. So if you like wanted to redo a style, you just press D-pad down, die, go back into the stage. But it didn't honestly take that long for the level reset code to like come into it. And that was found just randomly too. It was like an accidental find.
Mm.
But like GameShock codes honestly weren't even that bad. They got to a point where it was like kind of like a budget practice ROM. The only thing that it didn't really have at all were the misc timers. Other than that, like it was really solid. Level reset styles, like you could even have stage select. Save states like were in its like infant stages even at that like before the practice ROM came in. So it was not that bad honestly, but it's a lot better now.
Yeah, it kind of seems like the practice ROM just kind of came in and put everything together cohesively and gave it a clean UI that everyone can use, and just kind of put it all together. That's pretty cool. I actually didn't know that it was mostly functional even before Usamune.
Yeah, there were a lot of codes. I think I still have the like page where all the
Oh
codes were.
man, that's wild.
That's crazy. I
think the most annoying part about that was honestly just having to quadruple check that you typed in the codes properly because it was so easy to make a mistake. And some of these were like 4 pages long.
Damn.
That's wild.
That's so
That's
crazy.
so wild.
I had no idea about the Game Shark era. I didn't know there was like even anything before Usamune. I thought it was just like you're just raw dogging the cartridge and you're going with what you got. Like you have to manually die and go back in. That's kind of good to know that it wasn't like that at least.
I mean, it was like before the whole sticks, like everyone's wanted to buy sticks. It was people wanted to buy Game Sharks because Game Sharks were so notorious for just breaking whenever, randomly. I was lucky though because I only needed one Game Shark that lasted me the entire time.
Huge.
Oh wow.
You're the best.
Let's go.
The best cart. The best Game Shark cart.
Blessed. Actual blessed Game Shark.
So, how long after you got into running did you? Was it 70 next? Was it 120 next? Was it one of the other short categories?
I didn't do 70 until I think it was when I had a 17 and 16 star. I wanted to get a 17 and then I did 70 star. At first I didn't even want to do 70 because I remember doing my first run and I was like, this is just way too long, and I gave up halfway through. But I stuck with it.
That's so
And I
funny.
think I got like a 53 before I went to 120. Because I remember my first 120 run was a race. It was a community-wide race. And it took me like 3 hours and 15 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, the
30 minutes of which was on
tough.
SSL 100.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Average first 120 run.
Yep.
Yeah, I spawned the star in the ceiling
Oh
at the end.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Pretty tragic.
I respect that though. I feel like that's pretty brave to do your first 120 run as a race.
Yeah, I did a tiny bit of practice. I remember having a notepad with just like very brief, like what I had to do during like 100 coin stars and stuff like that. Yeah, it was fun. I was just on a call with a few people and I think everyone in that call was doing the first run.
That's a really cool way to do it,
That's
actually.
pretty hype.
That's sick.
Do you remember who won the race?
I don't. I mean, I could find it because it's on Speedruns Live.
Oh wow.
It's a bit of history right there. The Gothic origin. What this might be a really dumb question. Has LiveSplit always been around?
No, at first, well, I wasn't really playing when people were using like BKST and like LapTool. It was just very basic timer with no split functionality really. I mean, LapTool had
Damn.
it was kind of splits, but yeah, when I started, it was W split, which is kind of just it was just the basic live split. It had splits, it had golds, but there was no detailed timer. There was no
Yeah.
like just extra functionality basically.
Yeah. All the bells and whistles.
Yeah, W split was good, and I think some people used Landfair as well, which had like a little bit more detail. But some people didn't like that because it just looked kind of not aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, I mean, you look at runs from back then, I feel like a lot of people just kind of opted for just the straight up timer, nothing else.
Yeah.
Just from like watching archived runs and stuff and various Summoning Salt videos about Mario 64. There was like there's like a hard line when people went from just straight timers to very obviously using live split. It was kind of interesting to see. I don't know when that line was though. I don't know like the exact date. I don't know when live split was like dropped, invented.
I
Whatever
honestly
you
can't
want to call
remember
it.
either. It just feels so long, and it
Yeah.
just stayed live split since.
That's crazy to think about. I know I didn't have LiveSplit when I first started, but like I think I had it for my second run. But my first ever run I just did on a timer on my phone. And then I think I took screenshots so I could see what my splits were. So I still have like the screenshots of like the literally over hour long 16-star run I did. So bad.
You got to hold on to that kind of thing forever, man. You really do.
Hey, it makes you feel better about your progress. You know, technically I've shaved off an hour and 13 minutes. Just an outrageous
crazy.
amount of time, or an hour and 3 minutes, I think.
You gotta hold on to that. You gotta hold on to that.
It's pretty crazy.
One speaking of things that have kind of carried through the community, Gothic, you have played a part in something that still continues to this day, and that is the Sockfolder setup for Cannonless. You were around and made improvements on those strats as they were being discovered. So if you can just kind of recount a little bit about what was happening around that time and kind of like the improvements that you made on the Cannonless setup.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like saying that I made improvements on it because I really didn't do all that much. I just chose the specific movement to do for the star. But I remember, so I woke up, it was October 8th, I think, 2014. And we found the Sockfolder setup. It was funny because I don't know if you know who Bebop Bandit is, because I'm pretty sure him, like probably like the day before, went into Sockfolder's stream, I think, and was just like joking and like saying that it was not going to happen or whatever. But yeah, I remember we were in Tiny Chat, which was like Discord practice call back then.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all just messing with it. And this was the full Sockfolder setup, which was 20 seconds long, 25 seconds long or something. And DefTech, who was one of the runners at the time, the top runners at the time, when we were all doing it, he was like, why can't we just like not do the first half of it? And we were like, oh yeah, we don't need to do that. I think Sockfolder just didn't realize you didn't need to slow climb up from the ledge or something, I think he said.
Mm-hmm.
So that just like cut the entire setup in half. And then we were all messing with that, and I came up with just that movement at the time. But it's like again, I don't really like saying that I did. I don't really feel like I did anything.
So
you know.
You don't want to say that, but we're free to say that Gothic revolutionized Sockfolder, right? I'll be the one to say it. You don't have to take it. It doesn't reflect on you.
Yeah, sure. But it was. I don't really know if like how long it would have took for people to realize you didn't need to do the first half. I mean, probably not too long, but it was just funny that DevTech randomly said, "Can we just cut this in half?" and it worked fine.
Sometimes that's
On
all it
that day,
takes.
though, like the texture setup didn't become like utilized all that much for a while after that. People were always just doing the jump over to the ledge grab that I was doing. But texture setup was like theorized on that day as well. It's just
Wow.
people couldn't get that consistently, so it was dropped.
I was gonna say that's interesting to me because it's the same kind of concept as like you cut out, the part. You take what Sockfolder is now, cut out the beginning half, and then you're left with texture basically, right? You just cut out everything before the bridge and you line it up yourself. So it's funny that
Yeah.
there was kind of that gap between when what we now refer to as Sockfolder, some people might call it Gothic Sockfolder. I don't know. It's the name that's been thrown out there as of right now. But it's funny that it kind of took a while to like then make that next jump to texture. But I guess it makes sense. Without the visual cue, like you have to find it, you have to spend time. And as it is, even if with the visual cue, like it's not as consistent and it just misses sometimes, which is really cool. Game's good.
Yeah, I think it was just because people had been resetting to class over and over again, and having like an actual like basically 100% consistent setup. People didn't want to cut down on that consistency to save a few seconds back then because they wanted to actually get those runs going.
That makes
But
sense.
then when people were starting to get more PBs and it was just normal at that point, texture setup came back in.
And then that got too easy, and so people were like, "Hey, salt."
Yeah, salt
not?
class, man.
What a joy.
It must be very crazy though, just watching a strat that you were just there basically from the beginning on, just kind of evolve over time, just to what it is now. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was. I think there's a video as well of like everybody in that tiny chat on that day. We all like did it together. It was like Cheese. There was Simply there, I think, and we all just set it up at once. And some people even messed it up. It was kind of funny. I actually have the video here if you want.
Oh, no kidding.
I mean, that's a piece of history.
Let's go.
That's actually crazy. You still have that. Was it just like the wildest feeling, like doing it over and over and being like, no, this actually works. Like we have Cannonless now.
I mean, it was insane because there was nothing in the game like this at the time, like doing like an OOT setup.
Yeah. It's so funny to think about a time before Sockfolder, because obviously it's like such a staple now, and it's like, even, I mean, we've had people do Mountain Rushmore stars. Spoiler, we'll probably have you do that. But like it's funny because that's one that makes it on a lot, obviously, but it's like one of the first stars that a runner learns because it also has like the visual appeal, and it's like a glitchy star, and like you do these weird movements. So it's so funny to think about like a world of Super Mario 64 speedruns without Sockfolder.
Well, I was lucky as well because I wasn't good enough to need to reset over class back then. So there was only a few people that were resetting to class. But I mean, yeah, it's insane. It completely revolutionized the game.
So we've talked about class, we talked about Usamune, we talked about LiveSplit. We haven't talked about Carpalus. But in general, and this question can include Carpalus. But I mean, because you have been around for so long, like what other major changes have you seen in not just, I mean, the gameplay, but also like the community and other aspects too of, the broader scope of Mario speedrunning?
I think one of the biggest things is how people approach the game, like in getting better at it when Nero did his Bob project. And when Nero got World Record, people looked at the game way differently. Optimizing. Like, I don't think people cared about the, like, on 100 coins stars from the first to the second star. People didn't care about optimizing that section at all.
Interesting.
XCam times, just nobody cared about XCams. It was always just star grabs. So you'd find people from back then like just long jumping into stars, not ground pounding under them, stuff like that.
That's
I
really
mean,
interesting.
it still happened. Like people still ground pounded under stars. It's just they didn't care about it for every single star. It was just not something people thought about, and I think that was huge. That was a big stepping stone for optimization for the game.
I feel like now I'll hit like the jump under a star and miss the ground pound. Alice is like where I do it all the time, and then I just like rock it up like an extra 10 feet or whatever, and it's like so tilting now, and it's so funny that there was a time where it just like wasn't. I mean, in reality, like it isn't a huge deal. Like I don't lose a ton of time, but it is annoying still.
I think the biggest, like the main examples of stuff that I can think of that people weren't really doing it for before was stuff like tricky triangles and like wall kicks will work. They would just like long jump into the stars, but now they do the like little jump and then dive down into the star.
Yep,
It was just stuff like that.
that's crazy. So, I gotta ask you about Carperless. How crazy is it that that exists now? And how do you feel about it existing in the run, being that it comes, like an hour and a half, hour 35 minutes into the run, and it is, I mean, it's a must do now to get a PB, but it is such like a challenging trick.
I honestly love Kabbalist. It's my favorite star in the game.
Is
I
it?
think it's I think it's
Wow.
consistent enough to not be like a miserable run, but it's like hard enough to make it hype.
I love it. I love that take. I love that you love it. I think you're the first person who's come out and said, "Hey, it's my favorite star," and I love that.
Oh yeah, I think it was so good. I'm so glad it's like the way it is in the run. It was funny leading up to the Kabbalah setup being found. I remember talking with people and we were just, I was, we were all just dreading of what the run was going to be. Like the bomb blast because Kapasi was practicing it
Yep.
and it was looking like he was actually going to drop it in a run. And if he got that in a run, like it was kind of, it was kind of scary to think about what the future of 120 was going to be like at that point. And then there was the first Kabbalah setup with the diagonal,
Yep.
where you needed a perfect diagonal, and that was scary because that could have opened a horrible situation of drama.
I remember for that people talking about buying specific like controllers or sticks that had the ability to hit that specific diagonal angle, and then just like using rubber bands or whatever to hold it at that like permanent angle, and talking about using switchers to come in for whatever part of the carpetless setup you were doing there. And it was just like it was like a 2-day period, I think, before what orthogonal Jones was the one that came in after that kind of fixed it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was people were talking about using input displays. Somebody made an input display that used just the actual values, so you could 100% get it.
It's so funny.
I'm just like so glad that the orthogonal Jones setup came out because it was just perfect.
I remember back when it came out, this was like early September, I'm pretty sure. Suiji was still like pretty hardcore grinding 120, like still just doing practice and stuff, runs here and there, and that diagonal setup came out and he's like, dude, 120 is like over, like I don't even want to do 120 anymore. And then 2 days later he's like, never mind, we're so bad, like
Yeah,
120 stars saved.
I think Kabbalah's setup, like I think that kickstarted a lot more motivation for Suiji as well. I don't think he was practicing as much as he was after the Kabbalah setup was found. I think he was so motivated to be able to run 120 after that was found, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just opened the door for a lot of people. Anyone who's been like trying to break a minute barrier, like maybe trying to get to that 139 level, trying to get to a 138, just a minute of time save just drops on you, and it's one trick that has a pretty consistent setup that had to have motivated so many people. I mean, did it have that kind of effect on you as well?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was already practicing at that time, like I said, but I was so instantly motivated to get into runs again. I wanted to PB and just drop like huge PBs over and over again, and I did.
I was gonna say it's literally exactly what you did.
And that's why it's Gothic season.
#Gothic season. Do we feel bad for Parsi that Parsi put so much time into Carpetless just to find out that, hey, that
I
doesn't
did
matter?
feel bad. I actually messaged Parsi about this, saying like people feel bad, but if it wasn't for him, this wouldn't have been found.
That's true. I
So
didn't think about it
I
that way.
said thanks to him for the work he did for the Cobblers that he did.
I didn't even think about it like that. You're absolutely right. I mean, we should all be thanking Parsi.
I mean,
Absolutely.
That's crazy. Parsi,
Anyone?
come on the pod. We'll talk. We'll thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone who just put that much time into the bomb setup for Carpetless like deserves so much respect, because
True.
trying to get that RTA, I just can't even imagine. Like, that's why it was a meme before. Like, it's just so silly, so
Yeah.
impossible.
You think anyone will go back and still do like attempt bomb Carpetless ever? Not like actually in the run, but like a single star kind of thing to see if they can do it.
Honestly, I don't think so.
That's
I
crazy.
think anybody like who could have done it before might do it for just nostalgia reasons, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone's gonna go out of their way to try it.
That's crazy to think about. Because I feel like you used to like pop into some like people's streams sometimes. I remember one GTM tried this for like 4 hours one day. Was just doing save stated bomb Carpetless, and he couldn't quite get the final two glitchy wall kicks. But it was like crazy to see somebody get that far into the. I mean, it's just like the whole thing is such a crazy trick. All of bomb Carpetless is just wild.
He was getting like Parsi was getting it so consistently. It was insane. I swear he got it like 33 times. I don't know. I don't think it was in a day, but I can't remember. It was like in like 4 days or something. He got it 33 times. It's just insane. I don't know how he did that.
That's crazy.
You
Can you
gotta be
imagine
so
if we
in
hadn't
tune.
found Carpetless and he just dropped that into PB and it's just like, what do we do?
Yeah, it would have been rough.
Oh man. So looking at ahead to grand finals, what are your expectations, your goals for it?
I'd like to drop at least a 139. I think if I don't get a 139, I'll be pretty upset. Not getting last would just be nice. I think not getting last would be nice. I don't really expect to get like top 3 by any means, but I think like 5th or 6th. I think that's probably what I'd aim for.
A 139, I feel like anything's open, you know? I think looking back at quals, the winning times, the first one was the 136. That's obviously crazy, and if Ouija does that, it's Ouija's to take home probably. Because I don't think anybody I won't say I don't think anybody else can drop a 136. That's not true. But I just think Ouija's in the best position if he gets a 136. Like that's just going to be tough to compete with, and I don't think we're going to see two 136s. But then the winning times from the second and third quals were 138s and 139s would have been for sure top 5. I think I don't have the thing in front of me. But yeah, I mean a 139 puts you like very much in the mix with anything's possible kind of at that point.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on how everyone else plays, but yeah, I think 139, just anything, whatever that gets me, 139 is the goal.
I love it. Do you have any you said, you kind of start hot every time you're out of the gates like lightning. Does that influence, is there any way you can strategize around that, like focus on more runs early or like take breaks in the middle of the day to then come back? I mean, then you lose time. I don't know. I'm just thinking, like you said, you were pretty consistently across the 3 qualifiers. You were good right out of the gates with early runs.
I think mainly I'm just gonna use it as the like it calms my nerves, because it's like, okay, I've actually dropped like a solid run straight away. I've got all this time left. I don't need to worry about that, like getting any run at all.
Yeah.
I can reset as like as much as I really want to get that extra run. I don't need to take huge mistakes and hope that I can clutch it out at the end or anything. I think yeah, I think just I think the main thing is it helping my nerves, really. I don't think that's going to help me with any strategies other than that.
So I've got to ask, if you had a chance to address any people that others might label as Gothic haters out there. I don't know that there are any. I have been very clear for the record. Okay.
I definitely was made aware of, certain things being mentioned.
Aware that I said clearly I am not a Gothic hater. I'll put my hand up on this one. I didn't put you in my 7 to qualify, and I admit that was a misstep. You proved me wrong, and I dropped the ball on that one. I had Dowski, and that was wrong. Hand up. But if you had to address any of these quote unquote Gothic haters out there, is there anything you would like to tell them?
I'm fine with being the underdog. I'll try to use that and prove them wrong.
I love it. I can't wait for you to. You already proved me wrong. So you're crushing the prove me wrong thing. Again, not a Gothic hater. I want to make that very clear.
I had you at number 6, just saying.
Oh my God. He's just sucking up to the guest. This is ridiculous. We'll cut this.
Just throwing that out there. Makes you think, Gio.
Yeah, well, where'd you put Blue Bob? All right, pal. Once we get him back on the show, I'll be rubbing your face in this. No, but real talk. Obviously, I am rooting for you to drop a fat. I would love to see a Gothic PB. I can't think of a better. We'll call it the culmination of Gothic season. If you drop a PB at pace, I would love to see that. That would be nothing would make me happier.
I honestly think that's doable as long as I actually put in the practice beforehand. I do think that's possible.
Let's go. So you said you haven't been playing a ton recently. I think I can't remember if that was before the interview or now. When is your plan to kind of start picking back up again?
I don't want to leave it too long, but I think if I give myself at least a month, then I'm fine with that. I'm just kind of sorting stuff out right now, to actually get there and everything. There's a lot to sort out.
A lot of logistics. You got to get there early enough too. You got to deal with the time change. We talked about that already. I feel good that we covered that. We just got to cover all the little details here.
Is there anyone that you're especially looking forward to meeting here in the U.S.? Anyone that you know for sure is going to pace in the summer?
I mean, everyone. I've known so many people for some of these people I've known for 10 years, 10 years, and yeah, it's exciting.
Let's go.
That
has to be a really good feeling. Just to be able to finally have a reason to just be in the same room.
Yeah, I was really glad that Blue Bob qualified as well, because I mean he's one of the people that I've known for 10 years. So just being able to play with him is nice.
Two true vets of the game. You both have been around for so long.
Yep.
It's gonna be awesome. I'm excited for you. I think it's gonna be a blast. Sad I won't be at pace, but y'all have to have a great time. Maybe the next one. I also want to ask you. You mentioned before you took a break. I think you said from 2017 to 2020, roughly. What brought you back, and what was the purpose of the break? Were you just burned out on the game? How do you deal with burnout? I guess if we want to go into the broader kind of realm of that.
I mean, during 2017 to 2020, I think I was probably playing RuneScape. Got sucked into that. I've always just jumped between, because I can never, for some reason, I can't focus on one game at a time, multiple games at a time. I can only focus on one. So if I have motivation for RuneScape, then I just lose it for SM64, and vice versa as well. I've definitely been burned out though. I think my biggest burnout was probably going for 149. Many people know about that if they were around back then. It took me a year and 3 months to get a 149, and I had a 150.
Oh man,
because I would just play. I would lose the run in basement in SSL, and then I would just stop playing. I was just so burnt out.
Honestly,
that.
that's valid though. That's so valid.
Not the same, but I had a 16 flat and 16 star, like 1600 for a year and 3 days. And there were times where it was like, I don't even know if I care enough to keep doing this. Like, if it weren't for streaming, that's the only reason. Because like, well, it's like a place where I can like hang out with people, and like that's the only reason I'm gonna do it. Because like otherwise, I don't really want to play this game. So I do kind of get that aspect of it.
Yeah, it's tough when you don't PB for so long. I think you just forget sometimes why you're even doing it in the first place. But then you get that PB and you just remember the feeling. So
Yeah, it's no, it's so true. Like I forget why I'm playing the game, and then I start like doubt creeps in everywhere. Where it's like it got to a point where there were certain stages like bits. It was like I don't know, I can't play this. Like I was practicing it on Usamune, and I literally couldn't get to the freaking pipe at the end of the level, like no matter what. And it was like, how can I ever expect to do this in a run? Like there's no way. Like I'm just never gonna do this again. I don't know how I ever did this. I can't play the game, and it just like actually like gets so deep rooted in there. And it's like it's crazy that level of doubt can come in. And then the second UPB, it's like, I mean, look at all the mistakes I made. Like I should be going for like 15 3x here.
yeah, that's why confidence is so important. Why I like just doing like a month, 2 months of practice before getting back into runs, because it just gives me so much confidence, and that mentality helps with being consistent.
I think that's really smart. I should probably try to be more organized like that. I would be more successful.
I always like to call that feeling of just like everything's just kind of clicking, everything's coming up, everything's coming up Geo, everything's coming up Gothic. Like I like to call that feeling Mario Nirvana, but I think it's just a more colorful term for being confident in your gameplay. But I like to roll with Mario Nirvana because it sounds nicer. But like everything just seems like it makes sense. Everything's just clear. You see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're like, oh, like that. Like you just know it when you feel it, and it's a very good feeling. It's so amazing.
You're just like in the zone. Like it's like you can't do anything wrong. It's the best. I mean, it's those moments that like that's why you play the game. Like even more like PBing obviously feels great, and like part of PBing is being in that kind of zone. But even just like playing in at that level where you're just like so smooth with everything is the greatest feeling ever. Gothic, I want to be cognizant of your time here, but before we let you go, we do want to ask you, and I alluded to this earlier, about your Mount Rushmores, your top four. And I'm going to hit you with both of them. I think at this point we can hit you both with the Mount Rushmore of stars in the 120 run and your Mount Rushmore of Mario players.
Okay, well, I thought a little bit about it. I think I was gonna have it as an honorable mention of Cannonless just because I like it so much, but I think it's definitely got to be on there. It's just like the biggest time save in the game that will ever happen, so it's got to be on there.
I love that call.
I think TTC 100 is just like the movement stars. What everyone says is you should always practice TTC 100s. How you get better at movement. I think Dark World Reds, because it's kind of like one of the first stars people practice, where it's like you're going for a fast cycle, and it's like the start of getting better at the game, in my opinion. And I think class for the same reason as kind of similar to Kabbalah's, just completely revolutionized the game, being able to get that consistently and focus on other things, don't have to reset over and over again in WOMPs.
I mean, it did change like the total trajectory of how people played the game.
Yeah, I think those four.
I love it. It's a solid Mount Rushmore.
I would say so.
Now you want to hit us with your Mount Rushmore of Mario runners?
Yeah, I think Siglamic's got to be on there. Just way ahead of his time, completely paved the way for everybody else. Brought in so many Western runners. and like with very little competition too. Like it was just him and like going against only a couple of people eventually. Who else? Maybe Punkei. I think Punkei was like, I have to say, he brought the time down like so much, like from 143 down to 142 range. He was just PBing over and over and over again, like every month that I think it was that he was just PBing, bringing the time down on his own.
It's a great pick.
And Cheese came in. I think Cheese is definitely probably on there as well. For similar reasons, just completely optimized the game. Brought the time down to levels that people were thinking were impossible back when I started. Who else? Probably Ouija. Ouija is just absolutely insane. Like he is just so far beyond like everybody. I don't really understand how he's as good at the game as he is, but yeah, I would definitely say Ouija.
I think it's a solid Mount Rushmore players too. I feel like it's tough to argue with any of those. I feel like they almost represent eras in a way too. Like you have Siglimic, Punkei and Cheese have more overlap, and I feel like there was a long period of like back and forth between them. And then Ouija's just he had the monster 137.35 before Carpetless, and then just comes back with the 136.21 after Carpetless. Like,
yeah,
he kind of owns the present day.
I wish I could mention more people like Nero, like I said earlier. Like he just completely changed how people thought about the game. I mean, Suiji is getting up there as well. Suiji is also how I'm feeling, like how people even this good at the game doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like we haven't had... I'd have to go back. I don't remember everyone's Mount Rushmore, so this could be totally wrong. But I feel like we haven't seen Suiji on a lot of the Mount Rushmores that we have done for when we've asked people Mount Rushmore of runners. And I wonder if it's because the focus kind of coming in is more 120, because like obviously this podcast was born around pace and pace qualifiers. And Suiji's obviously he's great at 120, but he hasn't held the world record yet. And so it's like he's not as in the center focus in this specific context. Because Suiji does seem like a pretty obvious one, having held 4 world category world records. But yeah, I mean it's tough. I mean that's what makes it tough. We need more. We need a bigger mountain is the issue. We got to make a bigger mountain. We got to get more heads up there.
We need like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
4 is way too limiting for runners.
Yeah, I agree. Well, this has been awesome. Zeus, do you have any final questions? Anything? Any final points you want to say before we let Gothic go?
Not really that I'm thinking of.
We covered it all.
Yeah, I think we went over a lot here. I will say there's a Nando's in Laurel, Maryland, so look forward to that. I know that's huge in the UK. So shout out Nando's.
What is Nando's?
You said what
Gothic,
is it?
Gothic, would you like to explain?
Yeah,
I mean, it's like it's a chicken like restaurant, I guess. That's the only thing I would like, spicy chicken.
Okay. Is it good?
Yeah, I haven't had it in a long time though, but it is really good.
Oh yeah. Who knew that Laurel was so cultured?
I know. Of all places.
It's basically a European
crazy.
city.
Yeah, no, this was awesome.
No, this is great. Gothic, thank you so much for coming on. All joking aside, really do wish you the absolute best. Would love to see you PB in grand finals. That would be just the coolest thing ever. I'm rooting for you out there. I hope you seriously kick some ass. And yeah, really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us. It was great hanging out.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Bye.